Hello friend, and welcome to Borgcast Original Series 2.21 with Peter and Anne-Marie.
Hello!
And this week we'll be covering By Any Other Name, which obviously is a bit Shakespeare, as is explained later on.
Yeah.
By Any Other Name would smell as sweet. This episode is written by Jerome Bixby initially, but it ended up being too serious for the producer's liking, with the crew being spaced in the shuttle bay and being forced to mate with each other, which... kind of like The Cage, actually.
Yeah.
So DC Fontana did an extensive rewrite. It's based on Gene Roddenberry's first sold script, which was made into an episode of Chevron Hall of Stars.
Wow.
Yes, another of those sponsored anthology shows. In it, two aliens of opposite sexes, the male played by Ricardo Montalban, disguise themselves as humans to study us, but then become enticed by human emotions, like love. And this episode is directed by Mark Daniels, 13 of 15. So, only 2 more to go from him.
Captain's log, stardate 4658.9. With the Enterprise under control of the Kelvins, we are approaching the energy barrier at the edge of our galaxy.
Any efforts to resist us or to escape will be severely punished.
Jim, I saw them reduce 4 of my doctors and nurses into those little... They've reduced the whole crew!
What is it?
Well, it's green.
You are trying to seduce me.
Me? I'm stimulating him.
When we engage the barrier, the ship will explode.
So, yeah, they beam down to the usual planet.
Well, you say that, but every time it's a new one. It's not the Next Generation where they had the cave set that they reused interminably. They don't have their own studio sets, so every time they have to build a new planet. And this one's got a pond. I mean, it still all looks fake. There's no getting around it.
And it's all the colours are all the same. Like the flowers are all sort of reddish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they've
It's
gone
the
for
same
quite
colour
garish
palette.
colour palettes. And they light up the backdrop of the screen in different colours.
Yeah.
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 They're not fooling anyone.
No.
And in the remastered edition, they do quite nice digital matte, so that basically what we see of them beaming down on the planet is kind of a small square in the middle, and around it is a far more extensive planet set than in CG, which looks good. And then, of course, they just cut to the close-up, and the illusion is lost.
No, fair enough.
You have to redo everything or nothing. I mean, it doesn't work if you just do bits.
No, not really. So, with Spock and McCoy and Kirk are... Never catch his name, but I think they call him Jay.
Yes, some security dude.
And Yeoman Thompson.
Yeah, played by Julie Cobb. This is her first acting gig, and she's still working to this day.
Cool.
After a very long career in TV.
And she says that she's picking up 2 human forms. And she doesn't. It comes into play later. She doesn't say 2 humans. It's 2 human forms. And so a bloke in an orange boiler suit.
Rojan.
And a woman in Not Enough.
Colander, or Colander, as I
Colander,
refer
yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
So Rojan's played by Warren Stevens, who was in Forbidden Planet, which itself Trek took quite a bit from.
Yeah.
And a lot of westerns. And he's wearing the Starfleet miner overall for some reason. Well, for reasons of cheapness, basically. And then Colander as Barbara Boucher. I suspect is how you pronounce the surname, or Butchit, if you're getting very common. She was somebody else who had a very long career, including a part in 2002's Gangs of New York. She was born in Reichenberg, in what in 1934 was part of Nazi Germany, but was returned to Czechoslovakia after the war. She has a mad hairdo. That must have taken ages. Yeah. And she's wearing something that looks a bit like it's something from Taste of Armageddon, but possibly re-dyed. It's so tight that you can clearly see her nips. I'm amazed they got away with that.
Yeah. Anyway, he then uses a device on his belt to make them all freeze.
His Bumbag.
Yeah.
I did think they looked like Bumbags.
Yeah, they do.
I had a Bumbag. It was bright orange. In fact, it was pretty much the colour of Rojan's jumpsuit.
I had more than one. I remember having
They were more useful for women, weren't they? Because you still don't really get pockets, do you?
Yeah.
So they were quite handy for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I had one that was a really bad yellow. Like, it wasn't quite neon yellow.
Right.
and it wasn't quite banana yellow, it was just yellow of wrong. And then that one accidentally on purpose got broken.
Oh.
So then I had a purple one.
Of course.
No, it was lilac, but yeah, still definitely better than wrong yellow. And the thing was, I'm one of these people, you give me a bag and I'll overfill it. So I just put a handbag's worth of stuff.
Yeah, I think I overstuffed mine as well and broke the zip eventually, so, hey ho.
Yeah. Also, apparently you are supposed to wear them over your bum, but I think I'd come across the Americanism fanny pack, so I wore mine over my fanny.
Yeah, and I always had around the front as well, because then you could keep an eye on it. And
Yeah.
make sure that nobody was stealing your stuff. I try to think what stuff I had back in the day, beyond perhaps some house keys. I mean, I was hardly carrying a mobile phone, or I think back when I was a kid.
No,
So.
I don't know what I would have had either.
Probably toy spaceships or something, I don't know. Some Star Wars figures.
Well, even if I had house keys, I collected key rings. I would have had a keychain like a fucking mile long with the key somewhere on the end of it in a different town. I do know that my mum gave me a personal alarm. I don't know who was going to attack me. But anyway, and it was really pathetic. You pulled out a pin and it really sort of pathetically went beep, 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 beep. And it just sounded like something's battery was dying.
Oh.
It didn't actually sound... It wasn't a sound that was going to alert anybody at all. Yeah. So I might have put that in the bum bag. Anyway, enough of bum bags. This one freezes people, and while they're frozen...
Not frozen in Shatner's case, because his eyes are clearly moving.
Yeah. He walks around them, telling them how they've come from another planet, and he's going to conquer them, and
Another galaxy.
Another galaxy, and the humans must face the end of their existence, which just made me think...
It's the end of the world as we know it.
And that's your teaser. And as teasers go, it's pretty good. They're obviously very powerful if they can...
Yes, yet more superpowered aliens. Not godlike aliens, but certainly superpowered. So
Yeah. So then he brings them to and explains that they've been paralysed by a neural field. And he says they need their ship for their voyage to Andromeda, and they're called Kelvins. Is this where they knit the idea of the Kelvin timeline? Or does
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
The Andromeda Galaxy, by the way, was last referenced in iMud. The originators, the androids in that story, came from there. And they had to leave because of high radiation levels. So I immediately started thinking of Terry Nation.
Why?
Because practically every Terry Nation story has something about radiation in it.
Oh, okay.
Both Doctor Who and Blake Seven.
Oh, and a countdown and...
Yeah.
Fair enough. So they're looking for a new galaxy to conquer. And it's, they have to conquer. They can't just coexist because reasons. And then they say, while they've been talking, the ship has been taken over. And you then see a clip of them doing the same thing, beaming up and then freezing the crew so they can go and do other things.
Yeah, you get Tomar in the pink jumpsuit, who goes to engineering, who's played by Robert Fortier, who was Bill Barnacle, the tram drunk in the Popeye movie. I don't think you got far enough into it to see him.
It was gobshite. I just wanted to hit people,
I like
so no, I
that
didn't.
movie.
You were the only one.
And then you get Drea in the gold outfit, who ends up on the bridge.
But it's the same stupid design as Collinder's, isn't it?
Similar, yes, yeah. Not quite as revealing, but yeah. And then Haynar, who's played by Stuart Moss.
Hey now, don't dream it so.
Okay, who played Lieutenant Tormolen in The Naked Time. He's the one who touched the dodgy alien stain and got the entire crew infected.
Oh, okay. His outfit, to me, of the three, seems the best.
Yeah, it's okay. It does look a bit like a sort of waiter's outfit from the future, but I did check it wasn't the same as the ones in Trouble with Tribbles, but it wasn't.
No. But I suppose it's similar, but it still looks better than the others, I think.
Yeah.
And then you find out that their ship was a multi-generational ship. It's taken them 300 years. So they were born in space. And then he says that the people who return to Andromeda will be his descendants.
Oh, Snorri dog. The Snorris.
Oh, she can't help it.
Oh, wish you wouldn't do it.
But it's like, so we've got to leave you. We've got to go somewhere else. We can't stay here. We must conquer. And, this galaxy isn't big enough for the both of us. It's just like, which is McCoy says. And it's just, I think one of the things that bothers me about the way this species is portrayed, and it could just be because they're supposed to be emotionless, sort of. But if they're emotionless, why are they all about conquering? Like, when you see it talking about conquering like that with passion from a Klingon.
Yeah, no, well, it's not they're emotionless. It's just that they don't normally have sensations and stuff. They're not used to corporeal bodies in the same way as ours anyway. So they can be sort of quite, we're all powerful, we're taking over sort of people without having all the other attendant emotions as well.
Yeah, but still, to me, it doesn't really explain to me why they have to conquer everything in the way that if it comes from a place of passion, I can understand it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it.
Superiority, isn't it? That's where it comes.
I suppose, yeah. And then they talk about the shells that they have encased themselves in. And then it sounds like Trojan, or whatever his name is.
Rojan.
Yeah, Trojan horse, yeah. It sounds as like he's rural phobic like me. Because he says he doesn't like all this openness while standing in a field with loads of flowers and no obvious signs of civilization. And he misses the comforting closeness of walls. And I thought, now there's a point at which I can relate to you, mate. And then they have a central projector, and the Star Trek crew are all imprisoned in a cave. It's a cave cell. It's got proper bars across it. And they're made of something that Spock hasn't come across before, but he says that we can't do anything with this in terms of our weapons won't penetrate it. But their power, in terms of, the humans outnumber them, so the power lies in this belt that they've got. They talk about, can they take out the central projector? And Spock's like, well, we don't even know what it looks like. So it's like, well, can we get one of them to study it? So Kirk reminds Spock of a time he used a mind probe to make the guard think that they'd all escaped.
Yeah, that's a reference to the Armageddon factor.
Cool, Armageddon out of here.
Yeah.
So Spock tries the same thing, but he sort of gets zapped. And then
Feels like there ought to have been an effect there, really. He just sort of throws himself away.
there was a sort of flash.
That was a sound effect, but there's no actual visual.
No, there was a visual...
No, I looked for it and there wasn't.
Thingy, what's-her-face, Colander, comes looking. So Kirk attacks her from behind, which makes sense, because then she's not going to be able to
use a Bumbag.
Yeah. And then he takes the device from her. So he sort of gives her the chop that I don't understand why it would ever
Judo
work.
chop!
Yeah, I'm just... Like the Vulcan nerve pinch, that's made up because Vulcans have made up.
Fine,
you can
yes.
but
most of Kirk's moves just
No,
do not work.
no.
So, you just have to accept that, I'm afraid.
Yeah. But anyway, so they sort of gently lay her down, take her advice and then leave. But the moment they walk through the doors, there's some more of the Kelvins who just zap them and then take the device away. Say that they're going to punish the red shirts because, of course. How do they know that that's what they have to do?
Yeah, well, of course. Well, they specifically say that they've got uses for the other 4 senior crew, but they don't have any uses for the red shirts. So
Yeah.
Oh, and it's Lieutenant Shea, by the way, the bloke.
Oh, right.
Played by Colbert, who was in The Flying Nun. Hey, and I quite like he's sort of got a sort of hot-headed character.
Yeah,
trait, so
I
quite
like
that.
it.
Yeah, he's not just another red shirt to be killed, but actually has a bit of a character to him.
Yeah, because he wants to take them out and he's all angry like that. So they get zapped and turned into... looks a bit like dice, really.
Yeah, Roxo cubes.
And Rojan says, this is like their distilled essence, their brains, their flesh, their personality. And then he crushes one of them. And then he says, but the other one can be restored. And of course it turns out to be the woman that has been
Well, that's
crushed.
quite unusual, actually. Normally it's the men that die in Trek, so it hasn't happened before, I don't think.
But that's the threat to Kirk, is that, we can do this to you. Meanwhile, work is continuing on converting the Enterprise in order that it can take less time to get where they need to go. And then Spock is talking about being zapped when he was doing the mind meld. He says he was thrown away by bizarre images, including equations, an image of immense creature with 100 tentacle-like limbs, and all those limbs could be doing separate tasks. So clearly the Kelvins are immense beings, and so they've had
hentai, basically.
Yeah, and so they've had to take on human form because, as Kirk points out, immense beings would otherwise struggle with a turbo lift.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about the force field and is it possible to create a counter field to jam the existing one. So the plan is for Spock to put himself in a trance so he appears in a coma.
Yeah, this is a new one, isn't it, for Vulcans? I'm not sure if it's ever used again. It's kind of Time Lordish, isn't it?
Yeah, put yourself in a trance. Self-induced hypnosis, they call it in Doctor Who, isn't
Something
it?
like that,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether it's ever used in Vulcans again, but the idea that you can sort of put yourself into a coma, there are animal species that do that.
Uh-huh.
So it's not beyond the realms of... It might be not something that humans can do, but it's not completely beyond the realms of possibility that there's a species that can do it. And so the idea is he goes into... What gets me is that he can time when he comes out.
Yes.
Because the animals that can do it, it's not like they can... Either they can do it for a set period of time regardless, or, do you know what I mean? They can't decide when the danger's gone in advance. But anyway, so he's going to pretend to be sick and they get help. So they get him beamed up. And McCoy says that Spock needs 2 cc's of sercaline. I don't even know what sercaline is. Is it actually...
It's a made-up human, I think.
Right. And Nurse Chapel's like going, what? And he's going, just don't say anything, just follow your orders. And then when Spock opens his eyes, McCoy just gives him a look to say, pretend to still be ill.
Yeah, they bring him in a very 20th century hospital trolley, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever see one of these again on Trek.
No. And then he's like, oh, another dose will do it. And then he says that to... Oh, what's the pink man name again?
Okay, so he's the one who ends up drinking with Scotty, isn't he? And he is Tomar.
So, yeah, he says to Tomar, look, it's a recurrence of a fever. He does name it, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, it's a recurrence of a fever he had about 10 years ago. He just needs to take his medication and then he'll be okay. So then he says, oh, okay, fair enough, and he leaves. Meanwhile, on the planet, Colander really likes a flower. And talks about how on Andromeda they have crystals that resemble it. And so that's when Kirk responds with the Shakespeare quote, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. On the ship, they're going to be approaching the barrier within an hour, and they're going to go to Warp 11 and not turn into lizards.
Amazing.
And Kirk goes to see Spock, and they're in engineering, and they can't find a way to jam the force field because it's protected by the same material that was the prison bars. So they then talk about yet again using an antimatter bomb.
Yeah. They reveal they've already tampered with the antimatter shields and the ship may explode when they enter the Great Barrier, and Kirk is less than happy with this idea. They approach the barrier, and I'm going to be radical here and say I actually prefer the remastered version of the barrier. I know dogs and cats living together and all that. I mean, it's a shame we're stuck with the Plasticine Enterprise with those shots, but the actual barrier itself is better. Whereas in the original version, they just reuse the effects from where No Man has gone before, which makes sense because it's the same Galactica barrier, so, you know, it's not necessarily cheap, but yeah. Kirk refuses to give the self-destruct order. I'm not sure whether that was the right call or not, but it didn't matter because the Kelvins knew about it and undid the tampering anyway. Having got them through the barrier safely, Rojan gives the orders for non-essential personnel to be neutralised, as they'll just cause trouble and use up available food, which is all very logical. I guess food synthesizers are limited by the amount of energy they need. Uhura is one of those under threat and is cubed, along with Chekhov and some of the extras on the bridge. Spock later reveals that he, the Captain, McCoy and Scotty are the only ones considered essential by the Kelvins. That's essential for assisting them running the ship, presumably, as there's no way the Enterprise could be crewed by just 4 people. Yeah. McCoy gives Kirk grief for not going ahead with the suicide plan, which seems to be a bit out of character, to be honest. He's not going to be thinking that, is he?
No, you could see Scotty maybe saying that.
Yeah, maybe. Tomar enters the mess and asks to be taught what the fuss about food is all about. And it turns out he likes the tasty Play-Doh grub.
Oh, it looks awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that if all he's had is pills, it's going to seem an improvement. But it makes it... I never understood really in Next Gen why they had replicators and then Picard was all like, oh, you've got to do proper cooking. But I'm now wondering whether, okay, replicators between...
That wasn't Picard, that was Cisco.
No, but Picard also... no, that's right, it was Picard's brother said that you should...
Yes.
But so there's a however long gap between... original series and Next Gen, and it now makes me wonder whether they've got the food to look better, but maybe it still doesn't taste as good, and that's why Cisco is still cooking and Picard's brother saying those things.
Troy was quite happy with the ice cream, so you know.
That's true. And I don't think anybody wanted Riker's scrambled eggs, did they?
Yeah, because yes, in Next Generation it was Riker that was all about the freshly prepared food. But anyway,
usually wearing something hideous and blue.
Yes. Spock realises from his earlier mind meld with Colander that the Kelvins haven't experienced much in the way of sensual pleasures and emotions, and that Tomar, having taken human form, is now experiencing the joys of taste.
Yum, yum, yum.
Amusingly, McCoy worries that he'll need a diet. Kirk hatches a plan to confuse the Kelvins with their newfound senses, confuse them enough to nab their belts, to control the freeze rays rather than get their trousers to drop down, presumably. Scotty invites Tomar to join him for a Saurian brandy. He polishes off a bottle in the Scotty's quarters, the only time we see them, apparently. It's decorated with a kilt and some bagpipes, naturally. Some antique engineering instruments, logically. A couple of spirograph patterns. That's not quite so understandable.
Although, has one of his nieces or nephews done that?
Maybe. And some helmets from suits of armour for some reason. Although one of them is a hiding spot for antique whiskey.
Which, if you've seen the most recent episode of the Frasier reboot, you will find amusing.
We get some very over-the-top drunk acting from both Doohan and Robert Fortier, including the famous "It's green" line that's referenced by Data in Relics, which of course also features Doohan.
Yeah. But the thing is, Doohan's acting is better than the other dudes.
Yes.
Because the other dude does this really weird thing where he sort of seemingly deliberately smacks his head on the table in order to fall over.
It's a very, very weird way of passing out. It involves kind of stretching up and, it doesn't make any sense.
Whereas at least Scotty sort of staggers and then slumps.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's less... It is comedic, but it's not complete pratfall comedic, is it?
Understandably, he leaves his precious scotch till last, no doubt hoping Tomar would have passed out by then, but no. McCoy gives Haynar a shot of what he claims are vitamins and tells him to eat some solids. What it actually is something which makes the Kelvin irritable, apparently. Kirk tries a different take with Colander, predictably, apologising for hitting a beautiful woman and offering to teach her about this human thing called love. So why isn't he bringing her chocolates to apologise and get to her the way the others are through food? I wonder. Also not a foodie, Spock discusses humans and their kissing with Rojan whilst playing 3D chess with him. And he taps into some feelings of jealousy over Kirk's kissing Colander. Rojan goes to see her to order the fraternising to stop, particularly with Kirk. It's all very overprotective dad. Understandably, she tells him it's none of his business. She goes to see the captain, because naturally he's worked his magic charm on her and they end up snogging. The pharmaceutically irritated Haynar lodges complaints with Rojan and is sent to his room.
Oh, I love that. He is literally sent to his room.
And now it's time for Who's at the... It's Drea. And who's been getting to her? No one, apparently. She's just kind of forgotten for the most part. Having polished off Scott's whiskey, Tomar passes out in the most ridiculous fashion, as we mentioned. The engineer congratulates his empty whiskey bottle on a job well done, grabs Tomar's bum bag, and then collapses. Spock tells Rojan that Colander is with Kirk and stirs things up a bit more, leading to a showdown with Kirk slapping the leader, leading to a fight.
But at one point he says something like, I'm stimulating him, and they push him, having caught him. Spock and McCoy push him back into... I love that.
The captain points out he's reacting like a human, and the Kelvins will be stuck like that for the next 3 centuries, and when they finally arrive their homeworld, they'll be rejected. He also points out that the Federation would be happy to welcome his people on an empty world, and McCoy suggests the world they found them on. Colander has had an abrupt about-face over fancying Kirk and professes her loyalty for Rojan, kissing him in apology. He enjoys this, and Kirk points out the advantage of being a human, which, of course, Rojan isn't, but there you go. But it does the trick, and they turn the ship around. And presumably, all the OxoCube crew are turned back again, but we don't actually see it in action or anything. But hopefully that happened, because otherwise we won't be seeing Uhura and Chekhov again.
Yeah, but also, I don't think in the next episode they can do Warp 11 and all that shit.
So these alterations were somehow temporary.
Yeah.
So is it classic or is it Tos Maria?
I'd say it's between the two. I enjoyed it overall, but there were moments where I was just like, oh, really? Usually with Kirk. I did not like the Kirk and Colander stuff. And yet another superpower being...
Yeah.
It's a bit of a well-worn trope. But the solution here is a bit different.
I mean, it would have been better, I think, if it hadn't been that Kirk was using love as the way. Because it would far be more interesting if Scotty got all the Kelvins drunk and won them over by the power of booze, wouldn't it?
That would be brilliant. Or if they switched it around a bit and maybe it was Kirk who overwon someone with the love of food and...
That wasn't going to happen, was it?
And McCoy was the one who did all the nice flirty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what Spock would do because he doesn't really do emotions.
No, as it was, he was just, jabbing at jealousy, basically.
Yeah, so I don't think you could have changed that one particularly.
No, I mean, that worked fine, and obviously Scotty's worked fine. McCoy's was an interesting one as well, come to think. It was just Kirk was like, oh, you're getting at her that way, are you? What a surprise.
Yeah. And it's no surprise given his character, but it did piss me off. And I think one of the things that pisses me off, I get she's new to sensation or whatever, and I did like the fact she ditched him bloody quick. Because she took a look at someone who wasn't Kirk and went, I'll have that, thanks. But I still found it cheesy. So that bothered me, and it was yet another really powerful being. But that said, it was a bit different, and I did like the fact that it was a bit different. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't fantastic.
Again, for the second week in a row, I think it was something really egregious in terms of sort of sexism or anything. So
No.
Yeah, that's progress.
Yeah, so not toss, but I wouldn't describe it as a classic either.
No, it's not the sort of episode I go, oh, yes, I must watch that one. And I barely remembered it at all, to be honest, which is quite telling. So
yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, let's find out what other people thought.
And we've heard from Boss, who writes, this episode takes focusing on the main crew to an extreme by turning everyone else into dishwasher tablets.
Eventually, yes, not straight away.
Leaving only the big three plus Scotty to fix everything. It's also very much an episode of two halves, with a serious first act being replaced by a more comedic second.
Yeah, it does kind of get silly, doesn't it, after a while,
Yeah. It starts interestingly enough with them beaming down onto a nice painting, and I was pleased that the Kelvins were not godlike aliens but just technologically advanced. They reminded me a little of the Borg in that they were only interested in conquering, not negotiating. Like last week, the crew get locked up, escape, thanks to Spock now being able to mind meld through a wall, and then are immediately recaptured. This leads to the poor female ensign being turned to dust, which was a surprise as I was expecting the male redshirt to get it. Once they're back on the Enterprise, the Estibisode, yes, one of those.
Estibisode.
Yes, Estibisode changes to a lighter one, in which the crew use the Kelvin's human form against them. This leads to fun scenes of Scotty getting one of them drunk, and less fun scenes of Kirk using his leching skills on the female alien. The Kelvins continue to behave emotionally until they eventually decide to just knock the whole going to Andromeda thing on the head and go back to where they first started. The conclusion of the episode was weak and didn't make a lot of sense. Also, if the Enterprise has been upgraded to fly at Warp 11, why did they never go that fast again?
Yeah, well, they never do on purpose anyway. So whatever it is they added to the engines, they obviously took away with them or something. Cheers, sir.
Thank you.
We've heard from Sampo and Yola.
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched, what was it called? By any other name.
What happened in it? Let me ask.
Yeah.
Was the Scottish guy named Scott?
Yep. Original.
Okay.
So that's your main takeaway from the episode, is it?
Yeah, I thought he'd be Scottish because of all the Scottish markers in his quarters.
Yeah, personally, I don't know any Scottish people, but I assume they all just have kilts and bagpipes on their walls.
Yeah, like we have Santa Clauses and
polar bears.
reindeers.
Yeah. So I guess that's all we can think of to say about the episode. Well, not quite. Let's say it was a tale of two halves. I think the beginning half on the planet, it was pretty boring and slow.
Very boring and very very slow. Although she who questioned love was my hero
for a while
until she didn't.
Yeah, well, now we're jumping to the end of the episode, but
spoiler.
The point I was making was that the beginning was pretty slow, even though I think the aliens were like sort of menacing enough because they apparently had almost no sort of weaknesses at all, and they were just took over the ship just like that.
I would have wanted to see whether they were birds or not.
The way that Spock described them, they sounded more like Cthulhu, actually. So I don't think they had the budget to show that. So very convenient that they were like perfect humans, whatever that means.
They had a category for a perfect human.
Yep.
I wonder what the other categories would be.
Better not think about that too much. But the point I was trying to make a few minutes ago was that.
Sorry.
But I think the last third of the episode I actually quite liked. I liked the fact that they beat the aliens by sort of annoying them.
It was quite nice for a change that they didn't kill anyone.
Yeah, they didn't blow anything up. But the aliens only killed one person, the poor
woman.
Only
one woman.
Yeah, the poor crushed her into dust.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty surprising because for some reason I was sure that they killed the man, but
Me too.
It was the woman. Shocking. But like you said, it was pretty refreshing that it appeared that the woman just did not fall for Kirk's attempts to hit on her.
Yeah.
Until she did. That was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, would have wanted it to just stay like that, like love wouldn't, or kissing, or falling in.
Yeah, but she was in a human body, and I guess she just thought that, well, this feels nice. Because in the end, she still wanted to go back with the others. I mean, she wasn't in love with Kirk. Maybe she was just using him.
But it's still wrong. Nobody shouldn't use anyone.
That is correct. speaking of Mr. Scott, I mean, his plan...
Scottish one.
Yeah, Scotty. They just spent the whole day drinking all of his booze and they both pass out. And meanwhile, the plot was solved somewhere else. So that was a waste of time and a waste of good booze, I guess.
Well, it's not better time than this to take the bottle out of the old armor.
Yeah, which he just has in his cabin. Why not? And yeah, even though they sort of use their intelligence to beat them, they still had to have a fist fight at the end.
Those humans.
Yeah, and then
I guess it's part of being human.
I guess so. Then they agreed on, and then we get the end credits on McCoy's shit-eating grin.
The what?
McCoy's shit-eating grin. Haven't you heard? I mean,
how in the world would have I ever?
I mean, it's a common enough saying. I mean,
it's what?
Shit-eating grin. You haven't. I mean, you haven't ever heard that when someone's like grinning, like no. Okay,
no.
Okay, never mind then.
Oh.
Yes.
I can't do this.
Well, have you got anything else to say about the episode?
No.
Okay. Well, hear from you.
I can't say anything now.
Okay. Well, hear from you next time then.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that's a phrase that clearly isn't translated to Finnish then.
No.
And to be honest, makes no sense in English either. Why would you be smiling with a big grin on your face if you'd just eaten? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't know where that comes from. And, you know, I didn't picture you guys as having like Santa and reindeer just to show that you're Finnish. I presumed you've got Moomin wallpaper.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you must have.
Yeah, it's the law.
But we'll have to find out from Llama God and Pieman whether they've got bagpipes and kilts on their walls, really.
Yeah, although Llama lives in Scotland, but wasn't born there, so he's allowed to not to.
Well, I guarantee what Llama has on the walls is Transformers.
Yeah. To be honest, Purry probably have spaceships.
Quite probably.
Yes. So, you know, maybe neither of them do. But yeah, you're right, it is like a blatant let's go... I mean, what would they do if somebody was English? And in America, because it wouldn't be the same thing. What do you think they would do to show someone was English? Would it be a flag of St. George?
Possibly. We don't have a national dress to speak of.
Oh, unless it was a bowler hat.
Yeah, well, perhaps in the 50s, but...
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of the era of Trek, they might have gone for it. The original
maybe.
series, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, because the sort of... the Avengers was kind of that era, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and Steve
had a bowler hat. So it might have gone for a bowler hat.
Yeah, I don't know what else we'd have on our walls if we were going to show we were traditionally English, though, because you can't have fish and chips on your walls, can you?
Red bus?
A red bus, yeah, and a taxi cab.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the way they do, isn't it? They just show vehicles for us.
Yeah. Yeah, or Big Ben or St. Paul's or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yes, Mr. Scott is the Scottish one. The clue is in the name.
At least they didn't call Chekhov Mr. Russian.
Yes. Mr. Commie.
Yeah. Ensign Rusky.
Yes. But you're right, it's a bit disappointing that it still needed a fist fight as well, because Trek, apparently.
Yeah, and
or
it
at
was...
least original series.
And also, Yona's right, it was better when she was like, you are trying to seduce me.
Yeah.
And just not...
kind of sort of looking at it academically rather than suddenly falling for him because he's Kirk.
Yeah. And also, I was taken back to one of the early episodes of DS9 where Nog and Jake do something with itching powder. I'm thinking, why didn't they just use itching powder? That's a sensation. Would have driven them nuts. You could have overpowered them in minutes.
Okay, that certainly would have been a very different episode.
Well, this is true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, it's Llama God.
Longos, Scotty, Fixie Tree, Unyig, Shack. Let me refresh your memory about this thing we Earth people call love. Now, in theory, this is an interesting story, and it's not a completely bad one either. The central premise is sound and pretty decent. The idea that there are aliens from another galaxy, they've sent an early reconnaissance force, and they're trapped and they need to hijack a ship home. What Andromedans need with a starship, indeed. The fact that they then have to take human form and they become overwhelmed by this thing that we call the human condition. Yeah, that's all really very good core science fiction concepts, really, I guess you could say. And some of the execution isn't bad either. The Calvins themselves are a good threat. They are very powerful. They're not showy, over the top. They don't chew the scenery. And in many ways, Rojan shows himself to be Kirk's equal and superior. Just the way that he's played as well is really, really nicely done. The fact that we see the Enterprise crew, and Kirk in particular, to be completely powerless, at least for the first half of the episode, is actually a quite nice change of things. Even in the last few episodes, even when we've seen them on the back foot, you always get the feeling that they're going to come out on top somehow, because they've got their know-how, their guts, the vim, the vigour, the vimto, whatever. You get the idea that they are going to come through in the end. But here, yeah, Kirk just looks lost, really, as they take over and the Enterprise is taken from him, and that's really good. But at the same time, it falls into the tropes. Now, whether these would have been tropes at the time, whether they just seem like tropes in watching it now, nearly 60 years in the future, I'm not sure about that, to be honest. But aside from the fact it's the red shirts that are sacrificed at the start of the episode, not only are they red shirts, but there's also a black guy and a woman, and yeah, they're the ones to go. Yeah, obviously. I mean, statistically, the odds weren't great for them, given that the three leads are white males, and they're not going to sacrifice the three leads, but, so it's not a great look. I guess it is a positive that it wasn't the black guy that was permanently killed, just temporarily killed, kind of. So there is something about it, but I still wouldn't argue that it's particularly progressive. We've got the fact that Scots are drunks, and, I'm not going to say too much about that, but it is a stereotype, isn't it? And it's not necessarily the best one. And then, of course, you've got the whole idea that women are highly susceptible to and can be won over by this thing that we Earth people call love. At the point in the episode where the Enterprise crew realised that they can take advantage of the Calvins' naivety and inexperience of their human forms, Joe just looked up and said, well, I know exactly what Kirk's going to do. And yeah, he went and did it. It was that obvious by that point. It was indeed that obvious. As he goes off to see Kalinda to indeed work his questionable charms on her. But it works. And on the other hand, for balance, it works from Rojan's point of view as well. I mean, yes, it does become a bit icky given the fact that Kalinda becomes this prize to be fought over by these two men. But on the other hand, the fact that Rojan himself is affected means that this thing called love is also affecting him as well. So a bit of equality. It still feels icky given how much he has to do, and she just stands there being the prize. But yeah. But the crew's interactions are fun when they do finally realise what they can do to get the upper hand. James Doohan's performance is fun. The other crew put in some good turns as they basically start needling and poking at the cracks to make the Kelvins fall. And the fact that we actually get in this episode Kirk suggesting a peaceful solution that the Federation could help out. That's actually good. That's a nice change from the let's just arm everybody Kirk that we had a few episodes back. So yeah, I'm liking to see that. This is a lot more Star Trek, kind of more what I'd expect for an episode like this. And of course the whole idea that taking on these refugees, relocating them, finding them their own homeland, yeah, that's something that's got particular resonance at the moment, isn't it? And that's an idea that they could have gone into in some depth, and indeed a future episode of Star Trek could go into in a little bit of depth and see what could come from that. We're looking at you, Lower Decks. That would be a really interesting one, wouldn't it? And indeed it's also nice that this episode ends with no cheesy joke as the credits roll. It's just when Rojan agrees to their terms and it's like, yeah, great, we found a peaceful solution to this problem. But I guess at that point you've got to assume that the rest of the crew were restored because they were in their bathroom state at that point. And on top of that, everyone's quite happy at the end. And yeah, I guess you can kind of maybe forgive the Kelvins out of desperation still in the Enterprise, but they wanted to invade. And also the female yeoman Thompson, she's also actually permanently dead. So did we just forget about that? I kind of think that we did, but it's not bad. So yeah, on the whole, it's an okay episode. It's got some good ideas, some good performances, but where it falls over is what it forgets, a couple of logic holes, and indeed just the usual stereotypes and tropes. So yeah, not a classic, not toss either, kind of somewhere in the middle. And of course, it's also time to update the Kirk snog count. We're now at 9 snogs. I mean, I guess this one was an apology, not so much a kiss, but yeah, yes, it absolutely was a kiss. So yeah, let's count. So 9, yeah, doing well, almost into double figures there. Let's see what we managed by the end of the season. But as ever, I'll be interested to find out what other people made of this. I hope that everyone's making the correct lifestyle choices, and until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, quite right. I think it's an okay episode. Yeah. Sums it up.
Yeah. And you're right. It is good to see portrayal of Rojan as a true superior. I think it's nicely done. I think.
Yeah, they do seem a serious threat at the start. Yeah. It's not the first time it's happened. They quite often seem overwhelmed to begin with, and then sort of that they come through at the end. So yeah.
But I think the actor's good. I find his portrayal believable, and although I think it was Boss said the ending was weak, it is in a way because I think we need to see more like the dice, as we called them, dishwasher tablets, as Boss called them, and bath bombs, as Llama has called them. I think it would have been good to see them restored. But the moment...
Well, it would have made the big grins and laughter at the end more acceptable in that way. And he's quite right, the fact that actually a crew person has died is
yes,
pretty,
it is bad, but how many more might die if this ended up escalating into war, given that they've got superior intellect and technology?
Ultimately, it looked a lot grimmer to begin with, so perhaps the fact that only one person died seems... But still, laughter seems slightly inappropriate at the end. But
no, I agree, it does. But I think that was just the way shows ended at the time.
Yeah.
And it's not nice, and we don't like it now, but I think it was a constraint put on the writers by the studios at the time, because you see it in all sorts of stuff. I genuinely hadn't twigged on the Scots the drunks stereotype, because I was just impressed by how much he could put away.
And most of the time, Scotty isn't drunk.
No.
It's only Wolf in a Fold I can think of.
The other one.
Yeah.
But you're right, it is a stereotype.
It is, but he appears to be a social drinker, basically. So, he's perfectly professional most of the time. It's just when he's got company, he can let his hair down a bit. And that's not a particularly Scottish thing. I mean, that's,
Yeah. And also, like I said, he won. Mm-hmm. And I'm just impressed by that, personally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think probably I've got my priorities wrong somewhere. But and you're right, taking on refugees currently has resonance.
Rather than taking away people's tents.
Oh, fuck.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. By the time this goes up, she's been sacked anyway.
Oh, that would be good. And then she can be a refugee, and then she can see how it feels. They could have done a bit more with that and didn't. But equally, that for us now is a big issue. I genuinely don't know if it was at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the States was, for a long while, and I don't know if it's still true in the 60s, was very good at taking in people, because they needed the bodies to build up the population, and they had waves of immigrants coming in. I know now that it's a hot issue because they're trying their best to keep Mexicans out, aren't they?
But back in the 60s, maybe it wasn't a hot topic in the US. It might have been other countries, but I don't know that it was in the US at the time.
It was, but somebody who knows more about history might set us.
Well, American history specifically. Yeah. Americans.
And again, I mean, back in the 60s, we were quite open as well. The whole Windrush thing happened, obviously, and we welcomed them with open arms. So it's really a relatively more modern thing, this, scapegoating of refugees and keep the... Anyway, let's not dwell on it.
No, but what I'm trying to say,
Stick to our wonderful escapism in Star Trek. Please.
No, but what I'm trying to say is I don't think they would have needed to make the point at the time. And... I think my preference is bath bomb. I went for dice. Boss went for dishwasher tablets. I think bath bomb is the best.
Right. Okay.
Well, because I don't know if you probably never have bought a bath bomb.
I did have a bath bomb once. Yeah.
Okay. They give me thrush, so I don't normally have them. But
now they're even more revolting.
But the texture that comes across, that's bath bomb texture. That is that's come from Lush, and I can almost now imagine scent of Ahura.
Oh, nice. Okay. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I prefer it when their crew are facing up against an opponent that's of equal strength as them, like the Romulans or the Klingons. Yeah. So often at the moment, we seem to be getting either god aliens or at least aliens that are super powered all the time. It's like, can we not have a slightly more balanced conflict at some point? But anyway.
But then, I guess in a way, this fits with the space is dangerous narrative.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I'm just finding it a bit repetitive, I think.
Oh, you and me both. What did Drew and Tracy make of this?
So that was By Any Other Name.
It was.
And what do we think of that one then? You're nodding your head. This is like...
Yeah,
that doesn't mean anything. All right, let's go through some points then.
Okay.
So they're on an away mission down to a planet, and they come across these
They get
Kelvins.
The Kelvins. They get lured in, don't they, by the by a distress call or whatever.
Yeah, and then they come down, and then he's instantly not even like they're not even there for like 5 minutes, but he's all like, we're going to take over your ship.
Yes.
And we're like
before the credits.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Rojan.
Yeah. So he fires the away team with some like twinkly magic-y dusty thingy that we later learn that they've all got, and he kind of gives them like a new identity, doesn't he? Well, not a new identity, but he kind of like gives them like, this is what you're going to do and stuff like that. So kind of mind warps them,
Yep.
And then like, why is Kirky moving his eyes?
I think they can move their eyes. So I think that was
in
part
all the
of
people
it.
that they zapped.
We saw
only Kirk
Uhura.
and Uhura move their eyes, and I just think that's bad acting.
No, I think they can move their eyes.
Buddy, like McCoy was stuck with his finger in the air for ages, and
He
I
was,
was
yes.
watching him and Spock, and they didn't move or bat an eyelid.
Isn't that a thing though? Like sometimes when you're paralysed, you can still move your eyes, isn't it? That is a thing. Yeah, I think it is a thing.
Yeah.
We liked it when Spock fainted a faint. Don't we?
That was really funny.
He does the, I need to prepare. And then
I need to prepare myself. Oh yeah, just put yourself into some kind of catatonic state, Spocky, and like then we can kind of do some underhanded stuff. And just the way he kind of like prepared himself and then killed over, we did chuckle.
It's good
at
comic
that one.
timing.
Yeah.
I like how all the Kelvins look really sculpted and like they got like extra makeup on and their hair's all sculpted. Like they're kind of like look like artificial humans, don't they? Because they've taken human
Well, they
form.
are because they're not humans, are they?
Yeah, they've taken human form, so they're like. I like the look of them. They're like
a bit
perfect.
plasticky.
Yeah, they're artificial. Yes,
yeah,
it's
and
good.
I can't remember what his name was now, but he's very pale.
Yeah, the one that McCoy kept. Haynar, I think he was called. Yeah,
because I was singing Haynar.
Yes.
But yeah, he must have been injecting him with some kind of steroids.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing to make him crawl the walls, he said, didn't he?
So we have to talk about Scotty.
Yes.
Getting drunk.
Oh, he's a Scotsman, so obviously he's got to get drunk.
But that was
and have kilts on the wall
really
and all that.
funny. But as I said to you, it was really funny how much this guy was drinking. But if you've never had alcohol before and you're literally on the hard stuff straight away, you'd be on the floor after one. Well, I would anyway. But yeah, he drank about 4 bottles and then it was only like the aging scotch that knocked him off his feet.
Pushed him over the limit. Although Scotty did get pushed over the limit as well. Yeah, so Scotty's got to get the guy drunk. McCoy is injecting him with like drugs to making him go a bit bananas. And it's Captain Kirk has got to bone the woman.
He's the only one who can like get smooth and like
what I would have liked to have seen is rather than Kirk like getting all like hot and handy with the woman, but Belinda or whatever her name was, he should have done it to Rojan, shouldn't he? That's what he should have done.
But then he's kind of given her like a taste of it, and then she was getting a little bit jiggy with Rojan then. So are they going to go away and make some bubbers?
I don't know.
Did we like this one?
I like the episode.
Say it. Go on.
I like the episode, and I like it when they do the polyhedron things that they turn him into. It's a very iconic thing, yeah?
So let's just talk about that, actually.
Yes.
So they turned them into these, like...
polyhedron things.
Yeah, polyhedron... I don't even know what you want to call them.
Yeah,
ashes things.
And they crush them.
Yeah, but they crush them and then
it's
they're
a very
dead.
iconic bit.
But... When Kirk goes down the corridor and there's loads scattered around, I would be shit scared that I would trip over one. And
there's one on McCoy's desk. There's one like I don't know. It's Chapel. I would have put that somewhere safe.
And obviously you've got Uhura and Chekhov who've been like crystallised. But you didn't see them come back to life.
No, but you assume it happened.
Well, we knew we knew that they could do that. We knew that would happen.
Yes,
but they could have done that.
I think it's an iconic episode. Is it a classic? It's a bit pulpy sci-fi. I like it. It's good sci-fi concept. Not quite a classic for me, but it's great. I enjoyed it.
Gonna start finding you every time you say a shit episode is a classic.
Okay.
Anyway, should we leave it there?
Okay.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I mean, it's not a crap episode, but it's not a classic either, definitely.
No, and you're right. Like, how many of them got accidentally trodden on?
Yeah, I know.
Also, did some of them just get kicked and then, like, when they were brought back, they only had, like, half a face or something? I mean, yeah, that's a good point. We should have seen them come back. And in terms of the whole moving eyes thing, I'm with Tracy.
What?
No, if you can't move... You can't move.
Yeah.
If there's a paralysing ray, that includes your eyes.
And both McCoy and Spock are definitely not moving at all.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, Kirk is moving his eyes all over the place. And Uhura blinks. It's quite difficult if somebody walks right past you, isn't it? Not to blink. But, yeah, it's clear that some of the actors are better at doing paralysed than others.
It's like, what was that game called you had to play as a kid when you had to freeze when the music stopped?
Oh... we used to do What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? Was that?
No, you play music, and then when music stops, you have
statues.
Yeah, something like musical statues. That's it. Well, when we did that at like brownies or whatever, if you blinked or anything, people would deliberately walk past you or click their fingers in front of their eyes and go, "You blinked, you're out."
Yeah.
So
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And interesting, you picked up on the makeup because yes, some of them are very paled up, aren't they? I mean, Colander not so much. I think it's fair to say, but
but Rojan is.
Yes, and the other dude that was in the Naked Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very, very pale. I think that's the point of McCoy saying, "Oh, you need this medicine."
Yeah, he does look like someone's put talcum powder on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Kelvins obviously have strong constitutions, given how much alcohol that one drinks. But anyway, right. Finally, we hear from the Pie Man.
Hello, orcs. Party here to talk about By Any Other Name. Now, this episode's kind of weird how it sits with my taste, in that I wouldn't call it a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but I actually have a lot of fun with it. I mean, the basic plot is that the crew get captured by some very advanced aliens, and there's this nice idea that they're actually sort of almost Cthulhu-like multi-tentacled beings who've taken on a human form because they need the Enterprise. Their ship was destroyed, and it's a nice reference of the Great Barrier that we saw in Where No Man Has Gone Before. A nice little bit of consistency, dare say it, continuity, almost unheard of in this area of Trek. And basically they take the crew is easily overpowered, and I like that that this race is advanced and that they are very much we're conquerors. Kirk's actually trying to say, look, we can probably sort something out. The big enough galaxy for everyone. He's like, no, we conquer other races, and various things. He then turns and again quite brutally kills a female red shirt for a change. But by turning into a kind of cube of that Oasis stuff that you used to use for flower arranging. And that's the idea. They basically convert most of the crew into that stuff. I mean, I quite liked when they were going around the bridge, it was like, we have no need of communications, they turn Uhura. And then we have no need of, our person can navigate the ship just as well, and turn Chekhov into that. Still no Sulu. And then they turn to like R3, and it's almost like and you three, I have no idea what you guys do at all, so zap as well. But yeah, it's for all that, like I say, it's a fairly hokey episode. I really quite liked the way that they realised that, Kirk was going to destroy the ship, and then they realise that they're feeling human emotions, so they're trying to trigger things. So each of them kind of goes at their own thing. Kirk and Spock do kind of a twofer on the two of them. Kirk trying his seduction, and quite humorously unsuccessfully initially. I did like the unsuccessful sort of seduction where he got shot down. Sadly, it was successful later. I think it would have been funnier if he'd not. And Spock kind of stokes jealousy. McCoy injects some like stimulants, and Scotty uses alcoholism basically and goes through his entire booze cabinet at someone. So yeah, and again, to me, it's a fun little episode. What I also like is it's ultimately sorted out diplomatically. Kirk basically says, you're going to be feeling this war, you've got 300 years of this. Your children basically are going to be different. And so they decide that 300 years of being a human on a spaceship isn't worth it, and go back to the planet and decide to settle down and experience peace or something, I don't know. But what I also, but the entertainment as well. The one that they bring on to fly the ship, I like the fact that she was just well out of it. She's like, no, this lot are a bunch of drama queens. I'm going to fly the ship. I'm going to keep my eyes forward. Then she's told, turn the ship around. Fine. Turning the ship around will do. She basically decided that she wasn't having any of this nonsense. She'll just stay at the helm, keep out of it, well out of it. I respect that. But yeah, it's good. Yes, we did have a fist fight. In the end, it does come to a fist fight. But I quite like the way it was used, as Kirk saying, you could have just frozen me or turned me into one of those little cubes, but you didn't. You wanted to punch me. You're feeling emotion. And in the end, the resolution is peaceful. That they actually have an ally now. I thought that was actually quite fun. So yeah, I suppose there's a lot to enjoy about it. I don't actually know why I don't think this is a classic. I think it's just a bit forgettable, is its big problem. You quite often think, oh god, that one. And at the beginning in particular, it drags a little when they keep getting locked up in that fake cave. And Spock using yet another weird mind power that he's not seen before. So yeah, I think that's maybe what takes it out of it. So it's sort of highly rated. But other than that, good bit of fun. I had fun with this. So all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll hopefully be back in the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
So we need to know what your walls are decorated with, sir.
Yes, including your shed.
Yes, the pie shed.
The pie shed, which I presume is just decorated with pies, but maybe it isn't. And yeah, I like that Drea just keeps out of it as well.
She does,
yeah,
yes. Very
that's
sensible.
Cool. And yeah, there is more than one point of continuity here. Has original series done continuity
Not
before?
as much as this. So yeah, we've both got the Taste of Armageddon referenced and the When No One Man Has Gone Before referenced as well. So yeah, that's quite nice, that.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, it's interesting we're all on the same page with this one.
Yeah, we are.
Everybody's like, yeah, it's good, but not that good.
Yeah. Good, but it's enjoyable.
Whereas the last episode we covered was very divisive.
Yeah, just a little bit. Whereas this one, we're pretty much on the same page, aren't we?
Yeah, and there's Spock and his mind powers as well.
Oh, yeah, they're really inconsistent.
They are, aren't they? And yeah, we kind of get that in TNG with
Troy.
Worf. Well, I was thinking more with Worf, actually. There's a new, Klingon tradition every week. So.
Oh, yeah, usually involving citronella candles, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you to everybody who's fed back.
Thank you! What's we doing next time?
Wow. Recording on the 23rd of November, we shall be covering Return to Tomorrow, which is another title that means nothing to me. But having watched it, trigger warning for extreme shacting, okay, folks?
Oh, God.
Yes. I think this one isn't going to be so universally liked. But anyway, we'll find out what people think in 2 weeks' time.
Tell you what we could do, for anyone who's up for it, you see shacting, you have a drink.
That would probably get us into a lot of trouble. So, yeah, please don't do that. Because it's most of the episode.
Okay.
Yes.
I might be a bit drunk then.
Yes, I really wouldn't follow that advice. Okay, so until you've got your livers checked in, we'll catch you next time. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
The Star Trek theme was written by Alexander Courage, and here was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Pelastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can find us over on Mastodon. Our addresses are on the show notes for this podcast.
Shut it down!